Joining us now is Ken Blackwell, the former mayor of Cincinnati and the U.S. ambassador to the UN Human Rights Commission. So, Ken, when we look at the recent move by Democrats, this comes after now, I think it's worth noting, months of unrest that you and I have talked about, whether it's been Seattle, Portland, New York, Chicago, Atlanta. You and I have been on separate conversations at this point talking about this unrest. But now this week, we see Democratic leadership pivoting and condemning some of the violence. Do you think that this is a political move?
It's a political move. It's too little, too late. Look, the Democrat Party is being driven by a radical fringe right now, and this is a ball of energy and a force within the Democrat Party that would cut off the legs of the Statue of Liberty and throw it into the Hudson Bay. I mean, that's how radical it is. That's how destructive it is. Their ambition not only is to cause anarchy, but to create a situation where there's absolute chaos. Martin Luther King said it in the mid 60s. He said, we're at a point in the nation where Americans have to choose chaos or community. We're right back at that point again in our nation, chaos or community. And the forces that are driving the Democrat Party are for chaos. The old timers are basically saying, what the heck? And they're trying to recover, but it's too late and it's too little.
And can you bring up the idea that this really does come back to an idea of enthusiasm to some degree? I mean, a lot of people were worried that Joe Biden would not have a lot of enthusiasm going into the upcoming election. Maybe voter turnout would be a little bit down. But a lot of Democrats saw what was happening on the streets, and I think they mistook that, I should say, as enthusiasm, as people who wanted to come out and support the Biden agenda, whereas I think that they didn't understand the fact that the average American voter completely rejects what they're seeing on the streets right now. They don't want rioting. They don't want looting. They want to feel safe and secure in their own communities. So do you think that it's fair to say that the recent pivot does come from internal polling that Democrats are seeing right now, that they're losing those moderates, those independents, maybe people in the suburbs?
Absolutely, because they chose chaos as as a political strategy. Look, public safety is not a political strategy. It is a leadership obligation. And that's the difference. And now they're scrambling because the polls are starting to show that their political strategy of chaos is backfiring on them because it has not only destroyed property, but it has cost priceless life.
And you bring up a very important point that I believe that some in the media still haven't figured out, and it's the idea that just because President Trump says something doesn't mean that you have to take the complete opposite approach if you're a critic of his. And I think that's what happened here is, for example, President Trump said that he wanted to offer the National Guard or federal agents, I would say, to secure some of these locations in Portland, in Chicago, Wisconsin, whatever it may be. And Democrats have rejected that assistance merely because it's from President Trump. And for example, we see President Trump going this week to Kenosha, Wisconsin, hoping to meet with law enforcement there. And we see Democratic leaders once again rejecting that visit, saying they don't want him to be there. Do you think that that is creating a disconnect between what maybe even some Democratic voters want and between what's actually being expressed by the leadership of the party?
Oh, absolutely. The leadership of the Democrat Party, they have in fact opted for the last 3 months to talk about defunding the police.
Mm-hmm.
The president basically in his push for public safety has said, no, not defund, but defend our public safety forces, that thin blue line. And what's happening now, more and more people are saying, we want to be safe on our streets and in our neighborhoods. We want to be safe in environments where we can raise our families without worrying about the destruction of life and property.
No, I think you're right on the money. And I think the line of the night is what you just said. It's the idea that security is not a political issue. That is something that every American can come together on. They can support. And as soon as you see this unrest on the streets and you see any party, for that matter, condoning those type of actions, you're going to lose support. I think you're exactly right for saying that. But Ken Blackwell, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight, breaking down this very important issue at this very important time. Thank you.
Good to be with you always.